It was the kind of restaurant where chandeliers glittered like diamonds above velvet-draped tables, where every clink of a wine glass echoed wealth and authority. The air smelled faintly of roasted duck, truffle butter, and expensive cologne. For most who stepped inside, it was a dream, a place they could only afford once in a lifetime. But for the staff working behind those golden walls, it was something else entirely. It was survival, and survival was never easy when the most feared customer in the city had made this place his daily stage. His name was Victor Harland, a billionaire whose fortune was rivaled only by his arrogance. Whenever he entered, conversations hushed. Waiters stiffened. Even the maître seemed to shrink under his sharp eyes. He treated staff like shadows, barking orders, snapping his fingers, and demanding the impossible. A dish too hot, too cold, too late, too early. Nothing was ever right. Those who served him left with their dignity torn apart. And yet no one dared to confront him. He was powerful, untouchable. In a city where wealth commanded respect, his cruelty was excused. But that balance of fear was about to shift. Before I take you deeper into this unforgettable encounter, I want to pause and invite you, if you believe kindness, humility, and second chances matter more than wealth and arrogance. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Corner. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world of the power of compassion. That morning, under the warm daylight streaming through the restaurant's tall windows, a new waitress walked in for her first shift. Her name was Marissa Lane. She wasn't from privilege. She was 23, barely scraping by, juggling 2 jobs while also caring for her younger brother, who had been in and out of hospital since their parents passed away. Her life had been one long stretch of sacrifice, but there was a quiet strength in her eyes, the kind born from hardship. Marissa had been warned about Victor before she even tied her apron. "Stay out of his way," one of the senior waiters whispered. "Do what he says, no matter how harsh. Trust me, it's better that way." Others nodded with silent agreement, glancing nervously toward the table that always seemed reserved for him. But Marissa only offered a small, determined smile. She had served rude customers before. She thought she was prepared. She didn't yet know just how cruel Victor Harland could be. By noon, the restaurant filled with polished shoes and hushed conversations. And then he arrived. Victor swept in wearing a navy suit that seemed to cost more than Marissa's entire year's salary. He didn't wait to be seated. He claimed his place at the grandest table, snapping his fingers for service before even removing his watch. The staff scrambled like soldiers, their movements rehearsed by fear. And soon it was Marissa's turn to step forward. Carrying a tray of fine porcelain plates, she approached his table with steady hands. But before she could even set the plate down, Victor scowled. "Too slow," he muttered, snatching the fork as though she had already failed him. When the dish was placed before him, a perfectly seared steak, he jabbed at it with his knife, then pushed it away. "Overcooked. Useless. Get me another," he demanded. The head chef, watching nervously from the kitchen doors, palled. That steak was flawless, but no one dared contradict Victor. Marissa stood still, her hands tightening around her apron. She saw how her colleagues lowered their heads, avoiding eye contact, swallowing humiliation just to keep their jobs. She saw Victor smirk, the way he relished their silence. Something inside her stirred. She had endured enough of life's cruelty to recognize when a person was abusing power. She knew what it was like to be voiceless. And in that moment, she decided she wouldn't let this man strip her dignity away. Victor leaned back in his chair, his voice dripping with contempt. Why are you still standing there? Do you think I'll pay for this garbage? Fetch the chef, or perhaps fetch someone who knows how to do their job." The restaurant froze. All eyes turned to Marissa. Every waiter expected her to bow her head and retreat just as they all had, but she didn't move. Instead, she drew a breath, her voice calm yet firm. "Sir," she said, her tone carrying an unexpected weight. "The steak is cooked exactly as you ordered it, medium rare. The chef prepared it with care, and I served it with respect. If that isn't enough for you, then maybe what you're looking for isn't on the plate." The silence that followed was deafening. Forks paused mid-air. A chandelier's crystal seemed to tremble in the stillness. No one in that restaurant had ever dared speak to Victor Harland like that. His eyes narrowed, his smirk fading into something darker. He was a man used to obedience, not defiance. "You dare lecture me?" Victor hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "You're a waitress, nothing more. Do you have any idea who I am?" Marissa met his gaze without flinching. "I know exactly who you are. But that doesn't give you the right to treat people as less than human. Everyone in this room works hard, and everyone here deserves respect, including me." Gasps echoed around the room. The maître nearly dropped his pen. For the first time, Victor Harland seemed at a loss for words. He looked around, expecting others to join his outrage, but what he saw was different. Waiters and diners alike were staring at Marissa, not with fear, but with admiration. For once, the spotlight wasn't on him. It was on her. Victor's face reamed, his pride burning. He slammed his hand on the table, but the noise rang hollow. Something had shifted. The billionaire who ruled every room suddenly looked small. He muttered something under his breath, grabbed his coat, and stormed out, leaving his untouched steak behind. The staff erupted in hushed whispers. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others smiled, almost in tears, relieved that someone had finally said what they all had felt for years. The chef emerged from the kitchen, eyes glistening with gratitude, and Marissa. She simply exhaled, her hands still trembling slightly, but her spirit stronger than ever. Word of what happened that afternoon spread far beyond the restaurant. Within days, the story reached the city's business community, then the press. For the first time, Victor Harland wasn't in the news for another successful deal or lavish event. He was in the spotlight for being humbled by a waitress. And strangely, instead of burying the story, people celebrated it. The city had long tolerated his arrogance, but now they saw that even the wealthiest could be reminded of their humanity. A week later, something unexpected happened. Victor returned to the restaurant. This time, he didn't arrive with swagger. His suit was still sharp, his watch still gleaming, but there was something different in his eyes. He approached Marissa, who once again stood tall with her tray. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then with a quiet voice almost foreign to him, he whispered, "I was wrong." He placed an envelope on the table, not filled with money, but with a letter. It was an apology, a rare, vulnerable attempt at humility. Marissa didn't need his wealth. She didn't need his apology to validate her worth. But she accepted the letter with grace because kindness, even to those who had shown none, was her way. That day, Victor Harland walked away changed. And the staff, they never feared him again. Sometimes it only takes one voice to break the silence. One act of courage to remind the world that respect cannot be bought and dignity cannot be stolen. Marissa proved that wealth may command attention, but kindness commands hearts. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Together, We can keep spreading stories that prove compassion is stronger than cruelty. Before we close, I'd love for you to comment below. Do you believe one brave person can truly change the behavior of someone powerful? And so, beneath the glitter of chandeliers and the weight of silence, a waitress taught a billionaire a lesson no amount of money could ever buy: the power of respect.